going on, everybody? Welcome back to another page of the playbook. That's Nate coming at you guys with another team in the 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days. Yesterday, we talked about the Minnesota Vikings. Today, we're going to talk about the New England Patriots.
Before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to give a special shout out to today's sponsors, starting with Goldfine and Bowles, Lawyers for the Injured. Personal injury, workers' compensation, those are their two things, but any sort of legal advice, they're the people to call. Give them a phone call, 309-673-5144. Tell them we sent you, okay? And I'd also like to shout out SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video as well. Use promo code PlaybookSports on their website to get $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Let's get back to the video.
Let's talk about last year. And Patriots fans, listen up. You guys, you and your team, tormented me and the entire AFC East. Hell, you tormented the entire NFL for 20 years. So you absolutely deserve this current run of mediocrity that you are on. It just brings happiness and joy to all of the land. I want to start with that. So welcome to the video, Patriots fans. Nice to see you. Let's talk about last season. Really an ugly season. No other way to put it. Started off ugly. Ended up with Mac Jones, a.k.a. Baby Goat, a.k.a. the second coming of Tom Brady, being benched, and the whole era of him being finished. It's over. Patriots ended up 4-13 on the year, where really the only bright spot on the year was that Christian Gonzalez looked good earlier on in the season, but then even he got lost to an injury for the rest of the season too. So even the one bright spot that we had going for us there in New England, out. So what changes have been made up in New England? What have they done this offseason to try to return back to the pinnacle that they just sat on for 2 decades? Let's talk about it. Let's get into coaching changes. Now, I know I said in the Chargers video that the Chargers hiring Jim Harbaugh was like the biggest coaching hire of the year. And while I agree still that is the biggest hiring, it is not the biggest coaching change in the NFL. That belongs to the New England Patriots and the end of the Bill Belichick era. Thank God. See you later, Bill. Oh, it's going to be good not to see him on the other side. Wish he could have stayed on as GM because he was not a very good GM for them, but an unbelievable coach. I mean, one of, if not the very best coach of all time. Definitely can argue that. Obviously, I am a little partial to Don Shula, who still holds the record for most wins. However, the Super Bowls and the success that Bill Belichick had speaks for itself, and unfortunately, I will have to say he's probably the best coach of all time. But him and the Patriots parting ways is huge. And yeah, the Patriots' offenses have been bad since Tom Brady left. The defense was never bad. That's Bill Belichick's strong suit. That is what he kind of thrived in. No, he could not figure out the offensive side. He could not build an offensive staff, hence why he just hired more defensive guys like Matt Patricia to run the offense because he didn't know what he was doing on that side of the ball. However, defensively, you absolutely cannot question that he's one of the brightest and most brilliant defensive minds NFL, football in general, has ever seen, ever. They did replace him with a former player and one of his defensive coaches in Gerard Mayo. Now, it is impossible to say exactly how well Mayo will do in this position, but he probably learned an absolute ton under Bill Belichick, having been a player for him and then a defensive assistant with him for the last 5 years. So you'd like to think that continuity will be beneficial. I will say, though, we're going to a true rookie head coach here. Gerard Mayo has never been a coach anywhere. He hasn't even held the title of coordinator before. So to go from defensive assistant and defensive line guy and linebacker coach all the way to head coach is a massive, massive jump and a huge leap that New England has taken. He did obviously bring in his own coordinators. He brought in offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt to run the offense, who I thought did a pretty solid job last year for Cleveland. It wasn't terrible. Can't really do much worse than whatever it was that they've been running out there for the last few seasons, so that's probably a small positive there. And then he also promoted DeMarcus Covington from defensive line coach to defensive coordinator. Hard to say much about him. Hasn't done a whole lot, so we'll see. I cannot and I will not say that this coaching staff is an improvement on last year. Give me Belichick and even his offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, over this because it's Bill Belichick. It's Bill Belichick over everybody else. And then, you lose the greatest coach of all time and you go to a guy who has never been a head coach in his entire life, ever. So that's clearly a net negative when it comes to coaching. And as it would be, no matter what, it's Bill Belichick you just lost. That's huge. So let's get into players lost in free agency and via trade as well. So Patriots traded away former first-round pick Mac Jones to the Jaguars. They only got a 6th-round pick in return. Basically, the return on that first-round selection was abysmal in 2021. You went to had one playoff run where you lost in the first round, and then you've been bad ever since. So that was just not the pick. It wasn't a great pick then. Looks even worse now. They just absolutely destroyed any confidence that poor kid had and surrounded him with zero talent to help him as well. I mean, this is a textbook how not to treat a young quarterback. So for New England fans, hopefully they learned not to do this to the man that they drafted this year. So they lost Mac Jones, and then they also lost starting offensive tackle Trent Brown, who went to Cincinnati on a one-year deal. Kind of an older player, big fella. So I'm okay with them not re-signing him, but now you have to figure out your starting tackle position. So just another hole to kind of fill. So we're going into the offseason before the free agency stuff here, and we need a quarterback and we need a right tackle for sure, and then just any talent that they can get. So players added and retained. I noticed the trend for the Patriots. It was really just retain the talent that they had, which wasn't a ton. You went 4-13. You can't really take offense to that. But they did bring back Mike Onwenu, who is it's a great re-signing. That's a fantastic re-signing. He was a fantastic guard for them. They didn't overpay for him. It looks like they're going to play him at tackle. He might take over at right tackle or left, one of the tackle positions for Trent Brown. But I really think he's a very, very good guard, and he might struggle with speed on the edge. I guess we'll see. We'll find out how he does with speed on the edge, because when he's played tackle in the past, it looks like faster edge rushers could get a step and get past him, whereas at guard, you don't come up against that speed. You just need to be as strong as the man across from you, and he often was. So they brought him back, which was smart, and then they brought back Kendrick Bourne, who is just one of their several number 2, number 3 receivers, especially before the draft, too. I think he's a very good second or third option, but you cannot rely on him to be the guy. You just can't. So they've still got to figure out wide receivers, even with bringing him in. And then they did bring in Jacoby Brissett, who probably going to be QB1 this year. Unless they plan to throw a rookie quarterback straight into the fire, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett, who is not a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. I'm sorry, Jacoby. You've done great in spells, but you've never been a guy to carry a team, in my opinion. So that is not a needle mover for me. They still need to figure out that position for sure. So they didn't lose much, didn't really add much. So we'll call this one a net even when it comes to free agency. So we're net negative on coaching and a net even in free agency. Let's talk draft. So a little fun draft fact for you, Patriots fans. This is the highest the Patriots have drafted since 2008. It's the first time they've picked in the first 10 picks since 2008. And in that year, they took at pick 10 linebacker Gerard Mayo. So it's the highest pick ever for their new head coach. The last time they picked this high in the draft was when they drafted the guy who's now coaching them. So fun little tidbit there for you. With pick number 3 in the draft, the Patriots took quarterback Drake May out of North Carolina. And I hate this pick because I really like this pick. I'm upset with Washington for letting him go to New England because he is, in my opinion, closer to being a 1B prospect with Caleb Williams. I think his talent level is closer to Caleb Williams' talent level than he is to Jaden Daniels. I think he was the clear-cut second-best receiver in this class, and Washington just fell in love with Jaden Daniels and went with him. To each their own. Maybe he's the specific type they're looking for. But Drake May has everything you want to see. Big-time arm strength, an underrated athlete, too. You watch some of his scramble drills. He's quick. He can move for a big guy. So very impressive, very good. I think he needs time to grow for sure. He's not quite ready. He hasn't really shown that he's quite ready, but he's got all of the traits to be ready at some point. As long as they don't mess him up. Patriots, you guys cannot do this to him. Please don't mess him up. I mean, do mess him up, coming from a Dolphins fan, but from just a football fan in general, this kid's got all the talent in the world. And if you don't put any talent around him, he's never going to succeed. So put some talent around this man. Love the player as a prospect. I really do see a lot of Justin Herbert in his game. I know that's a common comparison, but I really do see it. Underrated athlete with a cannon of an arm. Maybe just needs to work on some accuracy and a little bit more on the mechanics in the lower half. So we'll see how it plays out, but I really do like this pick for the Patriots. This was a fantastic pick for them. Second round, they took wide receiver Jalen Polk out of Washington. Truthfully, I had a late 2, early 3 grade on him, and they had an opportunity to take both Ladd McConkey and Adonai Mitchell. Now, they traded down with the Chargers, who immediately took Ladd McConkey because he can actually separate and is a solid receiver. And the Patriots opted to go with Jalen Polk over Adonai Mitchell. My issue with that is I think Adonai Mitchell has receiver 1 potential. I don't think Jalen Polk has receiver 1 potential, truthfully. I think he's got solid receiver 2 potential, which is not bad. That's not bad for a second-round guy that you take. But you had an opportunity. You had 2 opportunities in Ladd and AD to take a guy that has true number 1 potential, and you opted to pass on both of them for Jalen Polk, who I think is a nice player. But I just don't know about this. I think that Jalen Polk struggles beating one-on-one man coverage. He doesn't have a ton of upside either. He's got a higher floor than someone like Adonai Mitchell, but his ceiling isn't close to Adonai Mitchell. So that pick was kind of an for me. And then the third round pick I really did not like in Caden Wallace. I saw him more of a 5 to 6 round guy. Truthfully, I think he projects more as a guard. and I liked other players more at this position. I really think Javon Foster would have been better. I hope that they aren't planning to trot him out early to start the season at tackle because they're going to completely stunt his growth and just ruin him as a prospect because he's not ready for that. He's not even close to being ready for something like that. I do really like their 4th round pick of Javon Baker. Excellent eye coordination. Pluck the ball out of the air. Not the fastest guy. Top end speed is average, but he's got good frame, good vertical ability, good body control, can make really acrobatic catches and win some contested catches down the field. So I like that part of his game. He's not a burner. They don't need to be a burner. Just go up and get the ball for us. So I like that pick in the 4th round. I think that was pretty good value. I had a late 3rd grade on him. So let's talk draft grade. I really do think the Patriots had a good shot at an A draft here. I really do. Just stay and pick Ladd McConkey or A.D. Mitchell, and we're talking A-, potentially an A draft here. They just overthought it, I think, and they traded down. They took Jalen Polk, and I'm not sure what they're seeing with Caden Wallace. He went in the 60s, late 60s. I think he went a full 100 picks early. Honest to God, I think he went a full 100 picks early. So I think if you want to play him at guard, there were a ton of better guard options, and there were still several better tackle options as well as just other positions. There were other better players that they could have taken instead of taking Caden Wallace. So I do not see Caden Wallace being anything more than a swing tackle at best. I do love the Drake May pick a ton, and I really think Javon Baker is a very solid receiver to throw in there. No, he's not a number 1, so you still don't really have a number 1 receiver, in my opinion, but he's another solid guy. And I didn't mention him, but I do like tight end Jaheim Bell out of Florida State. I think he could carve out a nice little role, especially as a 7th rounder. So some value late there. But I think that they kind of flubbed in the 2nd and 3rd round and then made up for it in the 4th. So kind of a wash here. I'm going to go with a B- for my draft grade. I feel like I'm being maybe a little harsh with that, but I really think that they messed up with Jalen Polk. I think Jalen Polk can be good, but I think Ladd McConkey has number 1 upside, and I think Adonai Mitchell has number 1 upside, and they passed on both of them. So hence the B- here. So overall, this offseason, not a ton of player changes when it comes to the roster. However, all of the coaching changes. So we are going to see likely a whole new Patriots team next year, except Gerard Mayo is a Bill Belichick disciple, but can he coach up the defense the way Bill Belichick could and get those guys going? I don't know. We've never seen it. We've never even seen him be a defensive coordinator. So it's going to be really interesting to watch the growth of Gerard Mayo over the course of the year. So we'll see. They don't really move the needle in free agency, and they lost the best coach in NFL history. It just feels like a really risky offseason for me. Like you're really gambling here on potential. And there's not the floor is in the basement, folks. However, you've got a decent ceiling here. So overall, this offseason, I'm going to give them a C+, and it's really helped by their draft, which was just a B-. But, they were saved, I think, by Drake May falling to pick 3. I really think that could be their saving grace. And Washington will probably be kicking themselves in about 3 years when Jane Daniels has been shipped off for a 7th-round pick. So that's all I've got for you guys on the New England Patriots offseason. Let me know down in the comments what you think about it. I know I'm a Dolphins fan, so you're going to discount everything I said, but I'm trying to be fair with these, as fair as I possibly can. And Patriots fans, you know what I'm saying is true. So let me hear in the comments. I'd love to go back and forth and chat with you guys. That's all I've got for you. We'll see you guys in tomorrow's video where we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints.